Putting together trailers for games, movies, and TV shows must be a bizarrely distancing experience. The mandate is always get as many eyes on this as possible, which in the world of film results in an entire movie being butchered. Its most spoilerific scenes being trotted out as final product be damned. Once you've plonked down the cash, many trailer makers could care less about the film experience on the other side. For gaming, it's mostly the same, though there's a key difference when jumping from films to video games. Your biggest selling points, i.e. the actual gameplay and feel of a title, has to be fantastic overall, or the whole thing falls apart in the long run. A movie can have bad scenes or bad acting, but it'll still continue towards an endpoint with you in the theater. As a passive medium, all you need to do is sit there, whereas in gaming, if the actual feel of something isn't quite right, people won't even reach the credits, maybe not even the halfway mark. As a result, you'll occasionally see companies hang their products on one specific scene or gameplay mechanic. The idea being that you'll play through no matter what. Getting to actually control whatever this moment is should be the greatest thing ever. Emphasis, of course, on should. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 most hyped video game moments that were massive disappointments. Number 10, playing as Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. With video game budgets being what they are today, no developer/publisher combo on Earth would take the risk of deliberately deceiving the public. But back in 2001, Hideo Kojima had just came off the back of a genuine medium-changing video game in Metal Gear Solid, and Konami pretty much let him do whatever he wanted. As such, Metal Gear Solid 2 was marketed off the back of Solid Snake looking better than ever, slinking his way through a rain-swept tanker and popping bullets into the limbs of various guards. What we didn't know until launch was that all of this was taken from an optional opening prologue that only lasted about half an hour, the remaining 30+ hours being spent in the company of Raiden, an albino rookie with no field skills and a constant need to moan about his mission. It was all done to highlight the immense difference between the two characters, showing Solid Snake through someone else's eyes. A great thematic choice and one that's bold as hell, but Kojima, did you really have to troll us all so hard? Number 9, fighting the werewolves. The Order 1886. Once word got out that Ready at Dawn's first next-gen outing was actually only a handful of hours long, consumers smelled blood in the water. Then when it started playing like one giant quick-time event cutscene with one of the most boring boss battles in gaming history, it was suitably torn apart. The point does stand though. Don't market your game off the back of battling werewolves in a steampunk version of London if in-game they're gonna boil down to tapping left or right to dodge and only occasionally attacking with a couple of repetitive animations. Even worse, these battles only happened twice in the entire game, and they were carbon copies of one another. Tackling supernatural creatures as a gadget-equipped Knight of the Round Table in Victorian Blighty should have been phenomenal, but instead the whole game felt about as worthwhile as PlayStation Home. Number 8, next-gen fatalities, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Okay, so what the f*** was up with Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance's fatalities? To explain, I'm gonna take you back in time, because before broadband and modems were the norm, us early 2000s kids were gathered around gaming magazines like they were oil drum fires in the apocalypse, reading up on what was set to be the best Mortal Kombat yet, and taking in every possible screenshot available. One in particular showed Quan Chi pulling a dude's head clean off. Oh man, we all said, albeit in a slightly disturbing way, that is gonna be so badass. Cut to 2002 and we got this. I mean, what the living hell even is this? And it didn't stop there either. Besides Sub-Zero's skeleton rip, Kenshi's body crush, and Scorpion's spear decapitation, the vast majority of Deadly Alliance's fatalities were just lame. Blood was less liquid and more like red popcorn, and animations rarely felt like the fight-winning ultimate move they were supposed to be. Of course, feel free to fatality me down in the comments if you don't agree, but for me and my friends back in the day, this was a monumental letdown. Number 7, The Reaper Invasion, Mass Effect 3. Going into BioWare's finale, we still had time. The galaxy-ending Reapers were light years away at the close of Mass Effect 2, and surely this game was going to be all about mounting some sort of one-of-a-kind offensive to outwit and beat the... Sorry, what? They're here? Now? Yes, the game opened with the Reaper invasion of Earth right in the middle of a conference discussing precisely how to deal with the Reaper invasion. Just how did we go from monitoring their every move to literally seeing them outside the front window? Who knows, but you were immediately thrown into a jarring all hope is lost, but here's the main mission and a few side missions anyway style setup, as Mass Effect 3 got off to an incredibly stilted start that would put a sour taste in all of our mouths for the rest of the game. Number 6, Surviving in the Desert, Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. There are two types of people in this world. Those who like Uncharted 2 more than 3, and the rest who are wrong. I'm clearly one of the former, precisely because of how flat a whole bunch of Uncharted 3's biggest moments fell. Case in point, the desert. Drake was shown in the game's PR as being pushed to breaking point. somehow surviving a devastating aeroplane crash and having to cobble together a survival routine from nothing. It looked to really let us explore Drake's psyche, as he'd assumedly be without Sully or Elena and only the sandy dunes themselves for company. Then you play this part of the game and Drake's deception turns into that bit in Escape from Monkey Island where every direction you go loops back in on itself. It's supposed to make you feel helpless and lost, but thanks to its placement in the story, completely ruins the run-up to the big finale you were otherwise working towards. When you finally do make it out alive, it's not the "oh, thank God" style reaction something like Journey gives you after its own iconic final hill climb, but more a "I am never doing that again." Number 5, playing hide and seek with a xenomorph, Alien Isolation. Leading up to release, Alien Isolation looked to be taking the inherent thrill behind the likes of Slender Man and the entire first-person horror revival, only to throw an actual xenomorph into the mix. The twist? Its pathways and AI were random, as the developers aimed to replicate what it might be like to tussle with the creature head-on. This was done through the pretty cool idea of giving the AI 2 brains that could contradict one another, but therein lay the rub, as Isolation's checkpointing could feel brutal, cheap, and unforgiving as hell. Because the Xeno could always kill you immediately and you could only save at specific parts on the map, with everything from cutscenes to progression completely wiping if you died, no matter if you played for 40 minutes or 4 hours, if you went down, that was it. This choice was clearly made to ramp up the tension, but bad checkpointing and losing your progress in any game is just infuriating. Rather than encouraging you to outsmart the alien using different items and routes through levels, you were taking the safest option every time, awkwardly pushing up against walls and through gaps to outgame the AI, just to make it to the next checkpoint without losing half your chest cavity and all your sanity in the process. Number 4, a world of hacking, Watch Dogs. Ubisoft were never going to be able to capitalize on the unprecedented amount of hype built up for Watch Dogs, but in a way it was kind of on them to not oversell such limited gameplay options in the first place. Because we were promised an intricately mapped version of Chicago where everything could be hacked, experimented with, and weaved together. In-game, this would surely manifest as a cool, in-depth system of choosing all manner of fancy functions, maybe involving a UI that mimicked hacking into something. Nope, you just held a button instead. The game did sporadically include a mode where you pilot pieces of code from one place to another, but considering the entire premise of Watch Dogs lay in delving into the hidden layer of data underneath every technological product, it was a major letdown. Number 3, unmasking the Arkham Knight, first time. Batman Arkham Knight. No, not the fact that Arkham Knight is Jason Todd. That point has been done to death. Instead, there's something altogether more baffling, and it comes just after you fight the Arkham Knight in a tank battle. First though, remember the context. The lead up to Arkham Knight was historic, the first time that all of us played a global game of Guess Who, just trying to figure out who Rocksteady had underneath the mask. Our guesses ranged from AI robots to Jim Gordon to Damian Wayne to, of course, Jason Todd. To be one of the first people to reach the point in the game where you knew the truth was one hell of a thing indeed. And after the aforementioned tank battle, you've pinned down the Arkham Knight, only to take off his helmet and reveal the Joker? The scene is supposed to highlight Bruce's degradation and Joker's poison acting on his mind, but where did the real Arkham Knight go? The camera spins around as Bruce is thoroughly confused, and so were the rest of us, but the entire scenario doesn't make any physical sense. Was the Arkham Knight always an apparition throughout the entire fight? Where was the real Arkham Knight if that was the case? What is even going on? Is there anyone out there? Dax Jin? Where have you even gone? Number 2, discovering the missing link, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Now I said earlier that no developer in their right mind would actively troll a modern audience, but Hideo Kojima is not just any developer, and he did exactly that in 2015 with Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Throughout all of the game's pre-release materials and advertising, we were continually reminded that Metal Gear Solid 5 would provide the missing link to bridge the prequel games and that of the original 2 Metal Gears on the MSX and MSX2. We'd supposedly discover what made the hero of Metal Gear Solid 3 slowly descend into a life of madness, what made him turn to using nuclear weapons as a means of defense, and precisely why Big Boss looked to be screaming in an abandoned field before being covered in blood in another scene. Then the game dropped, and no. A twist revealed that there were actually 2 big bosses all along, fitting nicely into the 2D games as you fought the character twice, yet no effort was taken whatsoever to pad out the advertised downfall of Big Boss. Like literally nothing whatsoever. The game's real ending can only be found on the special edition disc as a half-finished deleted scene, and the way the Phantom Pain wraps up doesn't go anywhere near the notion that Boss is anything other than a warp-minded soldier lost in the distance. In all honesty, I'm one of the biggest Metal Gear Solid fans going, and I still love the final version of Metal Gear Solid 5, but from a pure advertised versus what was delivered perspective, this was kinda just lying. Number 1, pulling the Star Destroyer out of the sky! Star Wars The Force Unleashed. To this day, I'm baffled how LucasArts managed to balls up The Force Unleashed quite so much. Yes, I know a whole bunch of people love it, but those people clearly didn't play PsyOps or at least Second Sight. Admittedly, the combat was arcadey and Force powers were pretty fun to deploy, but it was the reveal of a Star Destroyer being wrenched out the sky in the debut trailer that instantly became one for the Star Wars history books. Can you feel the power of our main man, Starkiller? Yes, it was pre-rendered, but whoa, baby, that moment with us at the helm would be even better, surely. Guess again. Instead of anything that gave you a feeling of tactility or power, you pulled the Star Destroyer out the sky by awkwardly positioning two analog sticks into just the right spot. Starkiller's hands jutting to and fro like he was trying to catch a giant fish. It was like one of those lockpicking minigames from Skyrim or Splinter Cell. A far cry from the sensation that should have come from tearing one of science fiction's most iconic behemoths out of the sky and bringing it to the ground. And that's my list. I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com. Don't forget the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast, and if you're feeling generous, drop by shop.whatculture.com for one of Jules' t-shirts. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll catch you soon.